You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the Newsmaker line is, I think, the first guy I've had on since New Jack that I can say I'm legitimately slightly afraid of. And he is one of the scariest, but also one of the nicest guys in the world of professional wrestling. I am speaking of the MAGA Butcher, the Necro Butcher. Are you with me, sir?
We're down here in, it's not too bad today, but it's been over 100 for about the past couple weeks down here in Amarillo. Not too bad today, though.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm in Arizona, and it's about 104, which, believe it or not, sounds cool to us. But we're going to be back up into the 110s next week when the West Coast gets the heat wave. So there you go. That's the weather report. But we're having Necro Butcher on for the first time ever, believe it or not. And the reason we're having him on is you're stepping back in the ring after a long hiatus. It looks like about 5 months away after breaking your hip in 4 places. First of all, how are you feeling, and what are you thinking going into this big match?
Well, I had the wrestling school down here, and you can't just. I have to get in there with the students, and they've been slamming me around and beating on me, and I haven't had any problems yet. So it's not like I've been living a contact-free lifestyle down here. I've been getting, I get in there with them and do everything. So no major issues. So when we'll see what happens. It'll be a historic night one way or the other. It'll be where the comeback ends or where the comeback begins, one or the other. But I guess, both of them will be historic.
And that's September 6th. It's called Bomb City Bar Fights. And you're going to be facing Pierce Price in that match. Obviously a guy who does the things that you do in the ring, are you, you've been training, but is there any apprehension about getting in there and doing a full-length match?
Oh, of course. But I mean, you got to stifle that stuff in your head. You got to keep it to yourself. But that was always the case. You know what I'm saying? I was always, deep down a little bit frightened of, not being able to perform to expectations. But I've been sitting around, for a while. I moved down here to Amarillo in a wheelchair, and then I moved to the walker, and then I moved to the cane. And now I still keep the cane, but I haven't used it in 3 or 4 weeks now. I haven't used that cane. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I gotta. One way to find out. I'm not getting any younger. If there's still some miles in the tank, if there's still some chapters in the book left to be written, then let's find out. I've sat around long enough.
I agree, and I can't wait to see how it goes. I will admit I didn't see the match where you suffered the injury, but by looking into it, it looks like it probably happened in BJW, Big Japan.
It was up in Hokkaido. It wasn't. Hokkaido was really kind of like it reminded me of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. It's very hilly terrain, sparsely populated for the most part. But it was up there, and it was wasn't anybody in the hospital at all that spoke English. So luckily with Wi-Fi, we have these little devices. We
the
call
translator?
them our phones. But, we call them our phones, but they're really just computers we carry around in our pocket. So with I could do a little bit of talking into the phone and push a button, that would say things in Japanese, and vice versa. They would say things into my phone, and I'd push a button. It would the phone would talk in English. So, I mean, there's still a little bit that gets lost in that, but
yeah, a little lost in translation, as they say. Yeah,
I would have hated to have had to have done this. Let's say in the 80s or early 90s, without this technology to assist me when I was over there, because that was 4 weeks I was over there in Hokkaido hospital.
Oh man! What was the move? What was the spot that did it to you?
Well, I've had problems. I've always had problems with my right knee, and that's the problems that happen with my hip are 100%. I can trace it back to the problems with my knee. I just not able to get around the way I should, not able to do the things I can, and doing things I shouldn't be doing. And that's what led to the issues with the hip.
Very cool. So I was doing my research. Believe it or not, I'm a podcaster who does his research, and I was watching an interview you did with Chris Kloss of XPW fame, and you mentioned kind of in passing that your introduction to pro wrestling came from a place that's near and dear to my heart. Never set foot in there. I wish I had, but the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas. And
that is true.
so what was, and he kind of didn't go into it a little bit, but it piqued my interest. My ears lit up a little bit. What was it? Was it the Chris Adams school at that point, or what was going on that they were doing seminars in the Sportatorium at that point?
Well, back then there was really no such thing as what they have a seminar now, where somebody goes to a town and has like a one-day event. But back then they had the Friday night were the wrestling events in the Sportatorium, and then they would have the wrestling camp would be Saturday morning. You know, because you have sometimes you'd have out of town guys that would stay all night, you know, Friday night, and then Saturday morning on their way out of town, you know, they'd stop by and beat up the kids a little bit. That's where I was with it. You know, you had guys that were perhaps maybe undercard wrestlers that wanted to make a good impression on the boss. You know what I'm saying? So that, hey, I'll come by tomorrow morning and help out. You know, that kind of stuff. Or you had guys that wanted to just maybe try out a new move. You know, something they watched on tape from Japan or something. That way, you can't just walk around you know, tackling dummies are hard to find sometimes. So you go to the wrestling school and find the tackling dummy. Try your new move out.
Who was the actual trainers at that point, or who was actually running it at that point?
Well, at that time, Black Bart was both putting the matches together for the company and running the wrestling school. I think Akbar had left.
Okay. So we're talking age-wise, this would have been about 93, 94-ish time frame?
Right. It sounds about right. Because Akbar I think he was still in Dallas. But I think he had left the wrestling company, and Bart had been I know, right before I got there, maybe a month or so before I got there, Bart had taken over the wrestling school, which was crazy to me because he was actually in the main event of the first live wrestling match I had ever attended, but that was for Mid-Atlantic Wrestling.
There you go.
I saw him fight Terry Taylor. That was the main event of the first live wrestling match I ever attended, and that was back home in Wheeling, West Virginia, where Black Bart and Terry Taylor. Bart was the national heavyweight champion. You know, we saw him on TV get the belt from Ronnie Garvin, and there he was. He was defending against Terry Taylor.
Very cool. And I know we mentioned it off air, but probably the last time that your name came up on our show was with Black Bart. And not to get too much into details on that, but how's everything going with Bart? Do you want to say anything about that? Because I know he had some issues with you, but it sounds like they might be in the past.
We had a good conversation a few days ago. You know, he really put the bat signal out there. A lot of people, anytime anyone I knew was ever in Dallas, they would come back. Hey, Bart really wants you to call him. You know, and several folks on the internet got me as well. Said, hey, you need to call him. So we talked and we had a good conversation. And the lessons that he taught me all those years ago are the same lessons that I teach my kids. You know, we get together 3 nights a week out here. We do we train in the ring on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then on Wednesdays we get together and we'll have dinner and we'll watch like an older, because now with YouTube and Peacock and all this stuff, there's good wrestling you can show kids. I have 5 female students. So we've been watching a lot of Leilani Kai lately.
There you go.
That's like the female version of Harley Race. Leilani Kai. Win everywhere, always on top. Solid in the ring. I was like, you guys, anything you see her do, you do that.
She should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. She should be in that WWE.
I was under the impression she was.
No, she is not, and she would never do an interview with me, but I wrote a thing on my website about, hey, she should be in the Hall of Fame if some people aren't. And she wrote me it had to be 5 pages, a response explaining why she didn't feel that it was necessary to be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, you deserve it. There's so many people that are in there that there's no denying you deserve it.
Well, didn't they put Bull Nakano in the Hall of Fame?
They sure did. Yes, they did.
I mean, not to take away from her accomplishments, but I would think, I would think that would mean they were working their way down the list if they got, because Bull Nakano had limited exposure over here,
especially to the American audience, yeah.
But then, Leilani Kai wrestled for the same company over there that she did. I would think her and Judy Martin would be a package deal, kind of like the Road Warriors or the Steiner Brothers, Judy Martin and Leilani Kai. I would think I don't keep up too much with the current product, but if you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, she's already in the Hall of Fame, but I guess not. Wow.
Very cool. So some of the mainstream fans out there, the first thing they might think of when they hear Necro Butcher is the movie The Wrestler. And that movie was gigantic. And you really were a part of kind of exposing that style of wrestling to an audience that maybe didn't realize that it existed. A hardcore style of wrestling and the things that work. Looking back at it now, a few years after it happened and got out there, what was the experience like working on The Wrestler, and what do you think it made a difference for wrestling in general and hardcore wrestling to the mainstream audience?
Well, I did a couple small movies in Japan, where I just worked like one day, but I'd never really been on a big set with wardrobe and special effects and makeup and and props, all that stuff. And I just like to sit and watch those guys and girls. I just like watch what they were doing and like look at how high speed this whole process is. They can make you a whole new outfit in 20 minutes. They can make you an outfit and have 4 or 5 outfits for the day, and they could do your makeup however you wanted. And it was one thing about the makeup that was kind of ironic was obviously with special effects, there wasn't a whole lot of lacerations or anything like that on me. All that was staged and with special effects. And then I had to go back maybe a month later after the first time after I taped the match for him, which took 3 days, by the way. But wow. I had to go back like a month later to tape some more things. And I had I caught Mark Briscoe had hit me in the eye with his elbow, so my whole face was purple. So it was funny because I went there the first time, and they had the makeup folks had to make it appear as if I was injured when I was not. And I came back and did some more stuff, and they had to make it look as if I was uninjured because I was. They had to cover up all this purpleness on my face.
There you go. How was Mickey Rourke to work with?
Well, he was real serious, because he was going to other wrestling events with me, and he would just hang out in the locker room. He would sit in the corner, and he would lace his boots up, then he would unlace them, and then he would lace them up, and then he would lace them, and he would do that 10 or 15 times, and then he'd watch what people are doing, right, and put tape on his wrist, and then take the tape off, and then put the tape on, and take the tape off, just over and over and over again. He would just find something someone was doing, and he would just do that. Like he wasn't, he didn't go there to, just to joke around and meet anyone. He went there to study what guys were doing in the locker room, and then that's what he would do. He would study and he would repeat over and over and over.
Interesting. Do you think it should have won Best Picture?
Oh, I don't. I was shocked that it got as big as it did, but I mean, that. And if you think of it, that was really his comeback role.
Yep, it really was. Yeah.
And then his career really took back off after that because, I had originally the first person I had met in this whole process was actually Nicolas Cage.
Oh wow, yeah, he was originally going to be Randy the Ram, right?
Well, not really.
No.
He owed the producer a favor.
Ah.
So they were just working everybody. They were taking Nicolas Cage around to meet the investors and meet this person and meet that person. And they thought that his name would do good as far as getting people on board to pay for this stuff. That was never that's what they told everybody. They told everybody there was a change, but there was no change. They were just doing that because they thought they wouldn't be unable to get investors with Mickey Rourke's name. But boy, how that turned out to be wrong, huh?
You're right. Yeah. So from that, you seem to get your first real big contract, or I don't know how big it was, but it was a contract with Ring of Honor, and that's amazing when you look back at all the wrestling that we had in the late 2000s, and Ring of Honor was so diverse. It was such a great product, and you were there for quite a little while. I guess my question would be, how cool was it to finally be working for a company like Ring of Honor, and what do you think of what they've become now with the C brand for AEW?
I had actually been there for over a year before that.
Oh, wow.
Maybe almost 2 years. But the one good thing that did, I was there for a good while, over a year, but I was getting paid per appearance.
Ah.
And after that movie, they finally said, I was one of the very few guys that wasn't on contract. And I was able, for whatever reason, they thought I was going to go somewhere else. No, I love it here. It was great. Great competition in the ring. Younger guys who'd been to Japan, guys from Japan. Even it was a great. When I was a lot younger, I liked to really test myself. It was a great place. And they went all over the country. We went to New York. We went to Las Vegas. We went to Chicago, Detroit, everywhere. They went out to all the big cities in America. So that was, I would have. It felt good to finally be one of the contracted guys. You're in the main event of a show, and for that long of a time, and everybody's on contract. But you're not going to complain. I love being there, but when that's. I remember some of those guys, well, most of them, they gave me a hard time about signing a 2-year contract because everyone was on a 1-year contract. Mm-hmm. And I said, shit, I would have signed a 50-year contract. I was going to sign whatever they offered me. I just wanted to finally be on contract, finally.
Yeah. So I mentioned AEW a second ago, and the style of wrestling that you're most synonymous with, obviously you've done it all. You've done all different styles, but you're most synonymous with probably, deathmatch and hardcore wrestling. When you watch AEW, sometimes they flirt with bringing that to the masses on a scale larger than like IWA Mid-South did, or than even ECW or FMW in Japan. It's just such a large scale on national television, on TBS, the Turner networks. What do you think of them flirting with doing that style of wrestling, and does it give it the acceptance that maybe it should have had a long time ago?
Well, I have to make a confession. Other than maybe a 4 or 5 second clip that someone has forced me to watch. I've never saw any of that stuff. I don't really, if I watch, like I watch the good wrestling with my students. We watch like world class wrestling, or Jim Crockett Promotions, or the
There you go.
AWA, or I don't want my kids watching that stuff on TV. They're not gonna learn anything, because that's not the kind of wrestling we're doing.
Learning the bad, picking up on bad habits.
Well, when you go out and you're wrestling in smaller venues that are not broadcast, you have to learn to. The crowd is the boss. You're there to entertain the crowd, make sure the crowd knows what you're doing, tell your story, present your craft to the paying customers around you. Whereas with these televised products, you're just telling your story to a little box. Which way's the hard camera? Which way, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Whereas the stuff that me and my kids do, you're surrounded by fans. Most of the time, no cameras, unless they have one of these little phones in their hand. But you're having the paying customers are in every direction around you. And they may be paying attention. They may be drunk. They may be distracted. You have to reach out and grab them and tell them what you're doing. Whether with your televised wrestling events, it seems as if they could really care less about the people that are there, as long as there's people there to fill up their seats for TV. But they don't really seem to try to cater to the live customers as much as they do the little
TV
black
audience.
box.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so one thing that I will be honest with you about, and I don't know how much you want to get into it, though I don't think you're afraid to talk about it either, is you were my friend on Facebook and you were posting things, and I'm going, yeah, I agree with that. That's awesome, and I'd share it. And it wasn't until like you said something about your school that I kind of was like, oh, this guy's in wrestling. And I'm like, I wonder who he is. And I looked at it. Oh, I've been reading the Necro Butcher's posts for months, and I didn't realize it was you. Of course, I'm talking about the fact that you now, or at some shows, wrestle as the MAGA Butcher. Very much a Trump supporter. And I guess I wanted to find out, where did the idea come to bring that to a wrestling character? And what do you think of what's going on right now?
Well, it's just, the best characters are just extensions of yourself, and sometimes I might get a little over the top with it, but I had a bout with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2020, and I took a couple of years off actually from that, and then XPW came back. Rob Black decided he was going to get back in the wrestling business, and originally it was just supposed to be I was going to go out and do, one match for him, just to try to, put my name on his new company and give a little bit of credibility by using a name that people might have known. But it was an opportunity for me to get back in the ring, and just much like September 6th is. It's a chance to get back in there and see what's left in the tank. But it was supposed to be a one-off, and it went real well. I was, pardon me, I was well received by the crowd and well received by the new generation of wrestlers. And then one match turned into another match, and then it turned into this and turned into that. And one day, they did an angle where I had Jasmin St. and another girl, Veronica Kane, where they had me with these two women, and the women had some issue with another lady who was going down to ringside with slack. So the focus was on these women, And then after the angle concluded, I talked to Rob and I said, "Boy, that was easy working with those girls. What are you doing with Jasmin now? What are you doing with me now?" And he didn't really have any. He said, "Well, I hadn't really thought about it." I said, "Well, you got to put us together." and they put us together. And Jasmin's the same; she's of the same mind I am when it comes to, most of your social or political issues. So we just started talking, and they put a camera in front of us, and then the next thing you know, that's all we were doing was, ranting, raving, and bitching about things.
So hold on, Jasmin St. Somebody that made some movies that, of course, most of us have seen, being a wrestling fan, and the fact that she was a adult star that entered wrestling. She's on our side. She's a MAGA person.
Oh, you should. It's great because sometimes they would want her to film a promo or something, right? So she'd go on her phone and watch the news and just get all mad, and she'd get herself all worked up, and then yell at somebody. She'd use some of the crazy things that happen almost every day in our world, and that should use that to get herself all worked up to, give somebody what for.
Wow.
Well, yeah,
that's pretty cool. They
great.
do say that the MAGA women are better looking than the other women, so
and they don't have penises.
And they don't have penises. I love it. So I'll tell you the truth. I wear my red hat out every time I go out of the house. I started doing it just because it really got under the skin of some really soft people, and I kind of liked that. Maybe it's my inner wrestling heel coming out in real life. What is the crowd reaction like when you do such a thing like that?
It's 100% investment, that's for sure. Either they want to see you get clobbered, or they want to see you clobber the other guy. It's not. No one goes to the restroom or the concession stand. When the patriotic Americans come out, they hate sure they love you, but at the end of the day they care, and that's what we're going for, and make them care.
Very cool.
Make them care.
Now
you lose or win.
You mentioned what the show was like in BJW, Big Japan, when you got injured. What's it like in the United States now with the independent scene and pro wrestling, especially in your neck of the woods? Is wrestling still hot, would you say? The independent scene, is it still hot, or have we cooled off a little bit in the last couple of years?
Backtracking for just 1 second, you were talking about the red Make America Great Again hats, or the red Trump 2024 hats. I'd been buying like 6 at a time, and going to XPW and just giving them away, giving them to people in the crowd. Sometimes you'd give it to someone that didn't want it, or things like that. And when I went to Japan, I took a case as in 24 of these red hats to Japan, and I thought, well, what the heck, maybe some folks will buy these. And I sold a case of Make America Great Again hats in 2 shows.
Wow. In Japan?
In Japan, yeah. So then the next time, I said, I had 2 shows. I did like maybe 9, 10, 11 shows, but sold out of these red hats in 2 shows. So I was like, well, I better buy more. So the next time I went to Japan, I took 3 cases of these hats. And again, I sold out in 2 shows. so people in foreign countries, especially in Japan, I mean, they get national alerts where North Korea is flying a missile over Japan.
Oh,
what I'm saying? This missile will land in the ocean every time so far, but it flies over top of their country. So like sirens are going off. They don't know if it's really going to land in the ocean or not. And that stuff wasn't going on when who was in the White House. Mm-hmm. And if you know who was back in the White House, that stuff wouldn't be going on now either. All this trouble in the Middle East, that wouldn't be going on if Trump was in charge. The Russia and Ukraine things. Because what happened? That guy would have took them to the table and they'd have made a deal. They'd have figured something out, and there wouldn't be all these people dying.
It's really cool.
When nothing was going, I mean, the Middle East was not a great place to be, but it wasn't in a current state of war when he was there. Now China is making moves towards Taiwan.
Taiwan, right? Yeah.
That that wouldn't be going on if you know all this stuff. But people don't. They think they let these little devices that they carry around. They let their phones tell them who to hate and who hates them and who's on their side. They listen to these things on your phone. I mean, you know, if my toaster breaks, I can push buttons on my phone and a toaster will come in the mail. I don't have to go anywhere. You know, if I'm out driving around in my car and I'm lost or want to go somewhere, I can push buttons on my phone and my phone will tell me where to get the sandwich I want to get, or you know, you can any sort of service, even
right.
services that are illegal. You know, you can just push buttons. These people that do like the internet dating or whatnot, they don't even have to go talk to somebody at a bar and say hi or buy somebody a drink. You can just push buttons on your phone and whatever weird version you have, someone will come to your house.
That's true.
To engage in these activities. So why would our phones lie to us? Our phone loves us. Our phone is our friend. You know, our phone says to hate these people, that they hate us, and we should definitely do what our phone says. Don't try to engage anyone in the world. Don't try to learn anyone's point of view. Hate them because your phone says so.
Exactly. It's a phrase that I've used a lot, but never before we had more information at our fingertips than right now, and never before have we been more dumb than we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, just. I mean, and leave it to America to screw up communism. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at the people wearing the Che Guevara shirts. Wait, you know, those are the people he would have killed. You know what I'm saying? This guy, you know, he killed all the gays, killed all the blacks, killed all the teachers, killed all the artists. You know,
that's basically everybody wearing those shirts that you just described.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know anything about that guy?
No, it's like yeah, that's what Netanyahu, when he was in Congress and he was in front of him and he said, seeing a LGBT group Q group saying gays for Palestine is a little bit like seeing chickens wearing a shirt that says chickens for KFC.
They throw them off the roof over there. Or
That's
what happened
crazy.
when Biden turned Afghanistan back over to the Taliban, and we left all those weapons.
Yeah.
What the first thing they did with those helicopters was fly a bunch of gays up the helicopters and throw them out. You know,
oh my gosh!
Immediately, that's the thing they did was start flying people around and throwing them out. You know, we did that. I mean, our incompetence did that.
I got to tell you, the last 3 interviews I've done have somehow turned into politics, and everybody so far has been on the same page. And that's been Hector Guerrero, who, you know, is a guy who is from Juarez, Mexico originally. And, you know, he's on our side. And we had Eddie Mansfield, a controversial guy as well, and he's on our side. So it's really interesting just to talk to people, and when politics comes up, everybody from different walks of life who somehow all ended up in the wrestling business, and somehow we all kind of came to the same conclusions on life. It's really weird to see.
Well, the scene in this country, the wrestling scene is just a microcosm of the rest of the country. You know, you have 10% of your audience at a wrestling show. 10% of them are vocal on the internet about wrestling. So then the people that run the shows, they don't hear from 90% of their crowd. So they then cater their product to 10%. You know, that we have these ridiculous things they do because, well, the people on the internet say they like it. Well, then that's 10% of your audience. And it's the same way with the ridiculous stuff, you know, on the news. You think everybody, you know, you think all these people are supporting Antifa and firebombing police stations and, you know, all this stuff. That's a small percentage of your lunatics in this country. That's not half of us or even close. Most of us are decent, normal. We love our family. We like to work. You know, normal, hardworking folks. But you know, the news wants these weird folks to think that there's more like them, and that's where we get in a mess.
Yeah, I agree. I'll let you go in just a few moments, but I wanted to ask you this question. And it might tick you off a little bit. It's about the perception of wrestling and hardcore wrestling, and of course, you probably could guess which podcaster I'm talking about. But anything that involves what you do is sometimes referred to as garbage wrestling. How do you feel about that term? Does that term bother you?
Uh, I, no, a lot of the current product in any aspect is really garbage. But the term is actually it's another one of those lost in translation items. The term originated in Japan. It was meant with the introduction of barbed wire or thumbtacks or various gimmicks. That's where it came from, and somehow in the translation it came into like garbage over here, as garbage being just refuse, trash.
Right.
But a lot of the current stuff there's a lot of guys that do the things that I was most famous for, but they don't know what the heck they're doing. And there's a lot of fellows running wrestling events who also don't know what they're doing. So they give these guys a forum to show how much they don't know. And then, of course, the crowd doesn't know any better either, so they go along with this stuff. And it's just, like I said, a small percentage of the crowd. You
there
look.
You go.
I have when my students get together and we all watch, classic wrestling. I tell them, look at the crowd. You'll see old people sitting next to young people, men next to women, good-looking women. You'll see kids. You'll see white folks, black folks, Mexican folks, all sitting next to each other. And you turn on the product now. 80% of your crowd, 75 to 80% of your crowd is middle-aged or 20 to 40 single overweight white guys wearing camouflage shorts.
Wearing camouflage shorts, that's right.
Yeah, they wear the army shorts with all the pockets.
I got called that the other day by somebody who said I was a white supremacist who probably wears army camouflage shorts, and I said and listens to Thin Lizzy. To which I said, hold on a second. Thin Lizzy was fronted by a black guy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but but that's the. That's who they seem to cater to product for, and especially with those companies that involve a lot more gimmickry in their matches. Like that's their crowd right there. We're not aiming towards that family dollar. You're aiming towards that the potential mass shooter dollar, the lonely white male, with no friends.
There you go.
Wrestling and complains about things, and
Yeah. All right. Well, let's say everything goes well on September 6th, and your match is a success. What's the next step? Just continuing on, or are you looking for any kind of major goals to accomplish in the next couple of years?
Well, yesterday is history, and tomorrow is a mystery, and but today's a gift from God. So whatever days you get, just try to live them to the fullest. And I'm an older fella now. My kids I got 3 kids now in their 30s. My kids are all pretty much grown up. It's kind of just me out there. I'm not really financially or morally beholden to anyone at this point in my life. So I'm just trying to see what life still has for me, if anything. And the last doctors I talked to were talking Japanese anyway, so hell, maybe I misunderstood them.
Well, I want to tell you, I really appreciate you taking the time of doing this with me, and I can tell you that I don't know that I expected you and I to be on the same page on like everything, but we certainly are, and I really appreciate you taking the time of doing this with me, and this was a lot of fun to get to know you a little bit. I appreciate you doing that.
Anytime. You did. Thanks for taking it easy on me.
I don't think I did I? I mean, was there harder questions I could have asked you?
Oh, I didn't feel challenged or threatened in any way.
You got it. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I will get this up and I'll post it up with the transcript and promote that event with links and all that good stuff for you. So again, I appreciate you doing this with me, sir.
I think that they live stream it on their Facebook account.
Yes, I think I did see that. They did that with a show I went to the other day. In fact, I did an indie show that was invited to come down to locally. It was like 5 minutes from my house. And what you described about having, whites and blacks and grandmas and then grandchildren there is what that show was. And it was so refreshing to see that, as opposed to when I went to an AEW show and I had smart marks sitting around me and all they did is bitch, moan, and complain. And
yeah. What happened to watching wrestling and then going home?
That's right. That's right.
yeah. It didn't, and it didn't used to be. You didn't used to watch wrestling. You used to have to go to wrestling.
That's right.
Your favorites would lose if you weren't there. They needed you there to cheer them on, or they would probably not win. They needed you to be there. Now you don't go to wrestling; you watch wrestling, where the focus of the televised wrestling used to be to get you to come to see it when it was in your hometown. Where now the matches in your hometown mean nothing. They just watch the TV show. These are the guys you see on TV.
There you go. All right. Well, again, I appreciate you so much. I'll send you a message on Facebook when I get this up and online. And like I said, I'll transcribe portions of this and put it up and send it out as a press release as well. So we'll get, if they don't listen to it, they're going to read it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, dude.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, Rush.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
You maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Viva la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey guys, we had a lovely conversation.
First lady.
Absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive
Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling.
Epicenter.
Oh my God, you win! Wow, being interactive.
Whoa! I just got some listen. I was not shooting. Yeah, I almost pissed my pants. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. Let's go. I see my language. You're going to go to the shop. I see them now. We're into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's going to be cool. Woo! What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Champion. Arrogant.
Jesus makes me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
So lonely without you.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive. Interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive. Interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates cash. Professional
Made
wrestling.
in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire.
I'm not
bad.
We were sexy.
What a show.
One and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Interactive interview. We took care of the business. This isn't ballet. We are huge with this whole. You're where it's at. You gotta recognize who's the best. Make sure you tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer, knock down your door, and turn it on for you. Or else I'm gonna kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line. Have a nice day.
It's showtime!
Don't forget to like and subscribe.